So Adele, I thought that we'd try and highlight the conversational landmines. So I mean by that, these things that we say all the time, every day, and we really don't have a sense that they have an impact on people who suffer from an eating disorder or disordered eating, or even those little guys that, or the little ones that we are kind of planting a little seed of body image, negative body image, or so I thought that you and I could go over these things just to bring awareness to these sayings that we say and to try to maybe prevent from saying them, which obviously we're going to do our best and we're going to mess it up, and that's okay, but let's try it. And on some, maybe we can give a little feedback as to what we could say instead.
Yeah, that sounds great. I agree, language matters, and absolutely what we say can be very different than what's interpreted by others, whether you have an eating disorder or not. In particular though, individuals with eating disorders are on really high alert for threat, and body and food related communication is a natural threat for anyone with an eating disorder. So shall we start with comments related to appearance, the things we should not say?
Let's do it. You've lost weight. You look great.
You don't look like you have an eating disorder.
You look fine.
Ugh, you can wear anything. Anything looks good on you.
You'd look better if you gained a little weight.
Yeah, you're all skin and bones.
You're way too skinny for a guy.
You're so weak, you need to pack on some pounds.
You look so healthy.
I want to comment on the you look so healthy one. Unfortunately, that's a phrase that is very common, and for a lot of people, they take that as a compliment. However, when you have an eating disorder and you hear you look healthy, what you hear in your head is, I'm fat, I'm disgusting, I've lost control. Are there any other ones you're familiar with?
Oh yeah, the list is long.
The list is long. So it's really important that phrase you try to take out of your vocabulary, saying things like, I care about your well-being, or you're getting your life back, or really just kind of refraining from making comments about the recovery process to any great degree. Now, I know there's something that you've heard and I've heard from individuals with eating disorders, and I'm curious how you would respond to it. I feel fat, I'm so fat.
Yes, that is definitely one we hear all the time as parents of someone who has an eating disorder. And I think that first thing is to try not to engage in that line of thought. And then I think that maybe something like, I hear what you're saying and I can't imagine how difficult this must be. Is there something that I can do, that we can do, to shift your focus onto something? Do you want to go for a walk? Do you want to play a board game? Let's just refocus.
Yeah. I should say, in reference to what you can say if you're going to comment on someone, is to focus on their traits. So whether I say to you, that's a really beautiful sweater you have on, or that color brings out your eyes, or your smile's beautiful. Something that's not a specific focus on body weight, shape, size.
All right, another section or topic is the comments that relate to food intake.
You ate everything. Congrats.
Okay, I have to stop you right there. That is one that I've been told is extremely triggering. And so, although as a parent, when you see your child who has an eating disorder eat, let's say, the portion that they're supposed to, I can understand how I certainly have like this internal dance of, yes, this is going in the right direction. But I think that you really have to refrain from providing feedback, because then you're feeding into the internal voices of, because while they're eating so much, there's definitely the internal voices of, you shouldn't be doing this, you're fat, you're failing. And so you would just kind of basically fall into that trap. And so if you can just refrain from saying anything, have your little internal dance and focus on something else.
Fair enough. Okay, let's continue.
Oh wow, you're still hungry?
I wish I could be as disciplined as you and eat so little.
I wish I could eat all of that and not gain weight.
We are what we eat. Calories in, calories out. I need to comment on that one. So I remember hearing that growing up, and we are what we eat implies that what we consume is our identity. And when you have an eating disorder, the desire to be thin and a low weight is the identity. Therefore, let's eat less. And with calories in, calories out, there are many factors that contribute to our physical functioning and what contributes to our weight. And so when we talk about that, we're really talking about a very specific thing. And the word calories can be sort of glommed onto, and there can be an obsessive nature that takes on with that. So eliminating that from the vocabulary can be really helpful. How about I do the next one?
Okay.
Just eat. Just stop binging, purging, exercising, taking laxatives. Just stop it.
So I have to comment on this one because the just implies simplicity. And there is nothing simple about an eating disorder. It is complex. There are tons of emotions there, tons of stories that are underlying this. When you're saying just stop or just eat, basically you're expressing frustration, and I get it because it is over the top frustrating to have a child who won't eat when you know that they really need to. So if at all possible you're able to express your frustration with someone else than them, you're ahead. That being said, sometimes it's just not possible,
It's
and
just gonna
that's
happen.
okay.
Yeah, it's just gonna happen.
Yeah.
We're not perfect.
That's junk food, bad food, unhealthy food.
Okay, very common. I think we can all say that we've used that vocabulary as we're describing the food we're eating. I'm a believer that there's no bad food out there. It's just how we do it. And the minute we label it as bad, junky, unhealthy, we're shaming ourselves. And I like to think about nutritious food versus less nutritious food. And less nutritious food I like to call fun foods, or some of the dietitians I work with will call them soulful foods. They have little to no nutritious value. They're just darn fun, and we should get to eat them, and we should learn to eat them in moderation and balance out what we do throughout the week, throughout the year. And so I really encourage parents and people to take those words out of our vocabulary because they're just not useful.
So I think other comments that can be helpful in all of these situations that we are kind of sucked in to make derogatory comments, let's say, would be things like, I'm here for you, I appreciate how hard this must be for you, I love you all the time, even though you can be frustrated. I think that one is always, always helpful. And how about, is there anything I can do that would help?
All right, let's head into comments related to activity.
All right. Wow, you've gotten so fit. You look fitter.
You look like an athlete.
As an athlete, you need to lose weight or you just won't make it.
You must work out all the time.
Oh, you didn't exercise today.
You don't have to worry about what you eat because you work out so much.
Just eat like an athlete.
What a six-pack. You work out all the time.
All it takes is willpower, discipline.
Okay, I need to speak to that one. So hearing that implies that we just need to grit our teeth and there must be something wrong with us, because if we could just attend to it and put in that little extra effort, everything will be fine. Eating disorders are psychiatric illnesses. They are complex, and there's more to it than just eating and gritting one's teeth and stopping exercise. I like to say it's about learning skill power. And there's skills and awareness we have to learn if you have an eating disorder, even if you don't, in order to sustain and maintain really adaptive behaviors for our well-being. So Something I'm pretty particular about is using the word activity as opposed to workout and exercise. I know it's going to be said, and I understand that that's very common language we can use. However, activity sort of supports the notion of things that we can do socially, things we can do and interact with other people. Activity is great for our mood, it's great for our sleep, it gives us energy, and to focus on the benefits such as those as opposed to the weight and our body size and shape. So let me say the last one to you. You're so sensitive.
All right, let me react to this one. So, as you know, people who have an eating disorder have this really big inner critic. And by saying you're so sensitive, you're basically encouraging this inner critic. And the other piece is they have really big emotions, which I know we're not always comfortable with because it's not within our culture to have big emotions. But it is the way it is, and if we can find a way to give them space and try to understand, you have a much higher chance of bringing things down. So something like, I understand that you may be feeling this way, and do I have it right? Like, is there more, or can you explain more to me? That approach of giving space and really wanting to understand has probably better outcomes than saying something like, you're too sensitive.
Yeah, or even simply saying, is there anything I can say or do to support you right now?
Yeah. All right, how about comments we make about ourselves and about others?
You bet. I'm so full.
I have a muffin top, and I think I need to wear my mommy jeans.
There's no way that will fit me.
Oh, I'm doing a cleanse or a keto diet. You should try it.
I shouldn't eat that.
I did this last night, and I worked so hard that I think I've earned to reward myself.
I've been so bad with my eating and my exercise this week.
Adele, I really wish I could look like that.
Oh, if only I had your butt.
Fat is gross.
I'm too fat to ride a bike.
Did you see how they let themselves go?
You're fat and obese because you eat too much.
Oh, I'm totally gonna binge on that.
I have to get in shape for my beach vacation. Okay, so pretend I'm a male. I have a dad bod, beer belly, man boobs.
How about this one? I really wish I could have anorexia for a couple of days. Anyway, I guess what we're trying to say is any comments that relates to appearance, body shape, and that kind of provides that belief that there's a standard that we should live by, and that if you don't have it, you're failing. All of those, we gotta really, really try to be aware and catch ourselves, because it's gonna continue to happen, no question. But if you could just catch yourself, then you can decrease the times that it might happen. And yeah, let's minimize those comments on body and appearances.
So I'm going to speak for a bit about some general guidelines that can be useful for teachers and admin staff in the school system. So one of the things is that talking about eating disorders can create eating disorders. So if you don't have the experience and the training, it's better to avoid speaking specifically to that.
Yeah, I did read about this research that suggested that speaking about eating disorders could create eating disorders. So I think if teachers are really trying to do some prevention, a better idea would be to provide some strategies around anxiety, because we know that eating disorders are often covering a ton of anxiety and other issues, but like
mood
that
fluctuations.
is exactly. And so talking about strategies to manage anxiety, and also maybe opening the door to inviting their students to come and talk to them if there's anything that is not feeling good.
Awesome. Fantastic, that's perfect. So another thing is avoiding weight and height comparisons. So I remember in school a question in math class that sounded like, Jane is 100 pounds, Betsy is 130 pounds. How much more does Betsy weigh in a percentile? So we really want to avoid those statistical questions that use weight, height, body shape, size as part of them. For physical education teachers, I understand you're going to talk about exercise and moving your bodies, but comments as it relates to nutrition, as it relates to weight, size, shape, should be something that is minimized in the conversation with students. Try to provide a variety of images that reflect diverse physical abilities, shapes, appearances, height in some of the material that you're presenting to your students. Avoid using measurements, so calibers, height, weight tables, scales. All these things should not be in our educational institutions.
I heard also about little kids coming back home and having to count calories. And yeah, that's probably not a good idea, because then they get into that cycle and it just goes downhill.
Absolutely. I call that food dissection. I sadly had the experience a couple years ago when my niece came. I was visiting my niece. She was 10 years old, and she came home from school and she was journaling her food intake and counting calories. And you can imagine I interjected and had a conversation with her parents. And so I hope that if parents see their children bringing home homework along those lines, that they will advocate for their child and speak to the school system about perhaps getting someone who is trained to come in and speak about those topics in an appropriate fashion. And so lastly, in relation to sports coaches, it would be really valuable if when they're talking about uniforms and gear, that they speak privately to their team players around the size of gear or uniform that they might have to wear. As a clinician, I want to speak to some of the things not to say, whether you're a family physician, a therapist, a dietitian. So let's go back and forth on this one.
All right. You look better, healthier, normal.
Your weight is better, more normal, good this week.
He's just skinny for a boy his age. He's fine.
You'll grow out of it.
I promise you, you won't die or get fat.
Wow, you've gained weight. Or, you've lost weight.
You know what? You don't need to see me. You're fine.
You can choose what you eat on your own if you're speaking to a child.
You should try to use a Fitbit or, one of those watches app that can help you.
You need to get to X weight. So I need to speak to that one. When you tell someone with an eating disorder that there's a number on the scale they need to reach, they will fixate on that, and once they get to that number, they won't want to go higher, even if that's appropriate for weight restoration. So you really want to focus on the other medical benefits that come from weight restoration as opposed to a particular number.
Getting your period is a sign of health.
So that one is important because we actually used to have that in the diagnostic criteria in relation to anorexia, that we called it amenorrhea, so a lack of the menstrual cycle. We've actually taken that out now because we know that a person can be at a severely low weight and still have their period. A period is one sign that the body is starting to function, but it's not the only one, and we shouldn't fixate on that either.
So how about things we should say instead?
You bet. You're thinking so much more clearly.
Fueling your body has made you more effective in communicating with me.
Your concentration has really improved.
I'm enjoying experiencing more of your personality.
So your parents will have to plan your meals for a while.
You can talk to me if you need to.
Fantastic. So as a healthcare provider, you have the clinical knowledge, and when you combine that with the appropriate language, you can really create a safe environment for anyone that comes through your doors and really enhance their recovery process.
Another thing you can do is go to our website, and I think we have a number of resources that are specific to physicians, clinicians, but also for parents and people who are suffering from eating disorder themselves and are just on that journey to recovery.
So let's talk a little bit about social media, and really, it's bad. It's bad. And so how do we combat it? It's in our face 24/7. Technology has made it even worse. But I want to talk about just a few things to be mindful of and just try to put some effort into as you go about your day-to-day. So magazines that focus on weight, shape, dieting, those Hollywood magazines, we should really try, as much as we might want to pick them up because they look kind of interesting, we should try to have them out of our households, especially if we have children, because they are watching what we are looking at and what we are seeing as a positive thing. We should support companies that promote varying shapes and sizes and colors. There's some phenomenal companies across Canada and North America that are really engaging in body positivity, and those are the kind of companies I want to buy products from. If you do own a scale, try not to make it this constant visual presence in a room, and again, especially if you have children and they're watching you use that scale on a frequent basis. And as a parent, just be careful what you're scrolling through when you're sitting on the couch and your child is beside you. What images are you responding to positively? What things are you making fun of? Your child is watching and they are paying attention and they're interpreting what you believe is good and bad and what's okay and what's not okay in regards to their size, weight, and shape. And become media literate. Challenge verbally what you see. So perhaps say, you know, that's truly photoshopped, or there's no way that person can look like that without doing extreme measures that are detrimental to their well-being.
Thank you, Adele. I think that we highlighted the conversation landmines that we all stumble against in our everyday life, and hopefully we brought some awareness to some of these, and together we can try to be a bit more aware and make an effort to minimize those and promote body positivity one word at a time.